In order to fully stamp out the coronavirus, there's an expectation among public health officials that most, if not all Americans need to get the COVID vaccine at some point. But there's some growing concerns about a number of Republicans in certain areas of the country where there's sort of an anti-vaccination sentiment. And CNN actually identified one of those towns, Boise City, Oklahoma. It's in the western panhandle just north of Texas. CNN, it's a county that went 92% for Donald Trump in the last election. CNN sent Gary Tuchman to a diner to ask people about their feelings about getting a vaccine. Watch this.
Does anybody in this restaurant think it's a good idea to take the vaccine?
No.
Raise your hand if you think it's a good idea. Anyone here is a good idea to take the vaccine? Raise your hand if you think it's a good idea. Not one person here thinks it's a good idea? Complete quiet.
Boise City is the county seat of sparsely populated Cimarron County, Oklahoma, where 92% of the voters chose Donald Trump on Election Day, the highest percentage in a state where all 77 counties went for Trump.
I'm just not going to take it.
What if President Trump came out and was very robust and said, take the vaccine? I took it even though I didn't tell anybody about it. It was kind of done secretly, but I think you should take it. He said it a little bit, but he hasn't been robust about it. If he was robust and said, take it, would you?
No.
Trump's a liberal New Yorker. Why would we listen to him either?
Did you vote for him?
He was the best option.
A liberal New Yorker, why would they trust him on something like the coronavirus vaccine? Well, it's not just, of course, Oklahoma where there's a problem. There was a poll that was conducted recently by the PBS NewsHour Marist organization. They found that nearly half of US men who identify as Republicans said they have no plans to get the coronavirus vaccine, according to the new PBS NewsHour NPR Marist poll. The poll found a higher amount of opposition among Republicans, with 41% saying they would not get one of the 3 federally approved coronavirus vaccines, and 49% of Republican men saying the same. And if you do the math, the Republicans account for what, like 26% of the overall US population. So you're looking at maybe 10 to 12% of the US population in total, the adult population, who would not get the vaccine. And there's some concern among scientists and immunologists that that could be significant in allowing the coronavirus to continue to keep going. Cenk?
Yeah, so look, for number one, I don't know what to do with these folks. You're never going to be able to talk sense to them, but you're certainly not going to talk sense to them talking the way that CNN does. And I like Gary Tuchman, and I like his reports. They're actually doing a lot more like actual human being reports, and I want more of that on CNN. So I'm not trying to discourage him. I'm trying to encourage him. But what he says, like, but what if Trump said it in a robust way? Like
nobody talks.
That's like not how those folks talk, right? And so, and what I wanted to know is, okay, what do you think's in the vaccine? Is it baby blood? What do you? Because I don't know the latest lunatic conspiracy theory on, or is it that the vaccine's fine, but you guys are just too manly? And you're worried that if you take the vaccine, you might not mind the trans women coming into your bathrooms or something. I don't know. And so, and there's some people on the left who are against it too, and they think it's chemicals, and they don't trust corporations and all. They've got their theories, right? But I've lost track. And now Trump's too liberal. But what are they going to do? They voted for the liberal Donald Trump because he was better than Joe Biden. Jesus Christ, if Trump is too liberal, who do they want?
Yeah, part of me feels like, and I don't want to be that liberal who talks about how exploitative a lot of the news coverage has been of the quote unquote Trump supporter, right? And part of me is like, look, man, if these folks in their little town in Oklahoma don't want to take the vaccine, or if they're less afraid of coronavirus than they are the vaccine, then what are we really supposed to do for them? That's sort of the consequence of living in a liberal democracy, right? Like this is what's gonna happen. You can't make people stick a needle in their arm if they don't want to. If they're, and I get there are gonna be people like, but what about us, the public safety and the public health? I get that, but they're not gonna do this, and that's completely fine to me. I'm honestly, I can't wait to get my 2 dosages. I can't wait to be frolicking again. I can't wait to go on vacation again. So I can't really say that, like, I hate how it sounds. I just don't care about these people. I'm sorry, they're taking their lives into their own hands, and that's their God-given American right. Let them do it.
All right, Woz, we'll count you down for not going to Oklahoma on a vacation anytime soon. But you know what? I frankly was shocked and surprised when I saw the clip. First of all, and there's Gary Tuchman saying, "Well, what if Donald Trump says strongly?" And look, the word robust, it may seem like they're talking about cattle or something out there. Maybe they were confused. But I was surprised when the person said no, even with Donald Trump. And then I was even more surprised. There was this poll that TYT did asking viewers if they thought Trump supporters will take the vaccine if he asked them to. And here are the results. About only 40% or so said yes. 60% said no. 60% of all of us believe that, well, even if Donald Trump comes out and was part of that advertisement with the other presidents and gave a primetime speech and rolled up his arm, there would still be most Trump supporters would not take it.
Well, look, I want to give credit to our incredibly smart audience. They had it figured out before anybody else did. They're like, no, they're not going to take it even if Trump says to. And it turns out you were right. There it is. Excellent evidence to the point that the TYT audience was making. But look, I want to just say one thing about what Woz was talking about. First of all, you got to understand there's a range of how the world handled the vaccine. I'm sorry, handled the coronavirus pandemic overall, and I'm sure is handling the vaccine. I know in the pandemic, China locked everyone down in Wuhan, and so. If you heard how draconian some of that is, you would hate it. Including, look, your dog was outside, nobody's going out. Look, your dog's gonna deal with it anyway that they're gonna, but we're done with it, okay? So super draconian. But on the other hand, they were done so quick. I mean, I don't know to what degree they're lying, but we saw the pictures of these giant gatherings and nobody's getting sick, right? And so then you had the same countries like New Zealand, Germany, Taiwan, etc., who handled it really well, where they didn't take away everybody's complete freedom like China did, but that it was not a political issue, it was just a science issue. And the government did the right things and people complied in a rational way. And then we had America on the opposite end of the spectrum going, oh, goddamn, I'm gonna do that, right? And then what happened? We had the worst cases, we had the worst deaths. It's not rocket science, it's super obvious. Same thing with the vaccine. Now, if the current science holds, this is my interpretation of it. I know some of you get upset when I say this. Please go do your own research on it and make sure you talk to a doctor and you're comfortable with the decisions you make, right? But I'm with Woz. We get the vaccine. My reading of the science is that not only are you safe, but you're not likely to give it to others. So those folks in Oklahoma, they want to smear coronavirus all over themselves and never take the vaccine. It ain't my problem, okay? So it just isn't. I'm safe. The people around me are safe. And yeah, hashtag freedom. So I'm trying to help you. I'm showing you the science. I'm showing you the doctors. But what am I gonna do? Tie those folks up and give them a shot? No, I'm not gonna do that. So it's on them.
Woz, do you have any concerns about, I mean, look, the vaccine was rolled out in record time, but didn't go through all the years of testing that most vaccines do. And there are a lot of people, never mind Oklahoma, but people in Manhattan, Los Angeles, Washington, who are also a bit concerned about, well, is there any possibility, maybe there are some side effects that haven't presented themselves yet? I'm sure that's gonna go through a lot of people's minds, never mind just Oklahoma. Do you have any of those concerns? I mean, if somebody said, hey, you can get the vaccine tomorrow, would you take it?
I don't have any of those concerns. I would take the vaccine immediately. And again, it's like I mentioned, to me, you're either more afraid of the vaccine or you're afraid of coronavirus, right? Like you have to choose a side. And mainly people have to understand that capitalism is not going to stop for you. So eventually your job's gonna make you go back to work. Eventually, you're not gonna have rent protection, mortgage protection in the ways that we even have it now, which is very limited, right? So eventually, capitalism is gonna make this decision for you. You're either going to leave your house, thereby putting yourself at risk for all the things that are out there, or you're just gonna ignore what you're gonna move off the grid. Like these choices have already been made for us. I think what gets underrated in how we handled the vaccine was precisely that. The government The federal government did not say, look, we're going to protect every one of our citizens. We're gonna pay all their bills. We're gonna stop them from being foreclosed on. We're gonna stop them from being evicted. Everybody, stay where you're at. We're gonna make sure you get everything that you need no matter what. They did not do that. And so the choice was already made. Like if your job, if your livelihood is gonna tell you work from home is done. You either get in here or you're out of a job, which thereby ruins you, like has a domino effect of ruining every single thing, every other thing in your life. It's over, the fight's over, guys, I'm sorry. I don't know what these people want, it's over. You're gonna have to be around people and you're gonna have to make a choice.
Cenk, is there a political price that could be paid by Republicans? Let's suppose the vaccine, it's only 85, 90% of the population that takes it. You have all these Republicans in Congress who are not taking it. And let's suppose that coronavirus lingers on. Do the Republicans then pay a political price for being the party that said, you know what, take the vaccine if you want, but it's also okay if you don't take it?
No political price at all. Because their voters, most of the voters are locked in. And Republican voters just don't care about facts, including facts that could kill them. They don't care. There's 525,000 dead, and they still don't believe it. And guys, last thought on this is just think about, if you're sitting at home, think about how powerful marketing is. Because when Fox News and all the right wingers said 4 Americans dead in Benghazi was the single most important thing that ever happened, the right wing talked about Benghazi for 2 years. 4 Americans dead, 4 Americans dead. How could we not be outraged? 4 Americans dead. 9 hearings on and on and on. 525,000 Americans dead and counting. And the Republicans are like, it's no big deal. And there you see it in the diner in Oklahoma. No big deal. So it doesn't, even death doesn't affect them. The only thing that does is propaganda that comes from Trump, Fox News, and other right wingers.
Well, no amount of Trump propaganda is going to eliminate the fact that starting in a couple weeks, most Americans are going to have the option: Pfizer, Moderna, or Johnson & Johnson. That's how quickly these things are rolling out.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.